Hello everybody, this is Dragonzilla here, and for this review, we're going to be taking a trip back in time, as tonight's review, I will be looking at some dragon figures from yesteryear. These 3 dragon models that are currently on the screen of your computer, laptop, iPad, whatever you're using, are the very first dragon figures that I ever got when I was a kid. Well, 2 of them I bought, and 1, if my memory serves me correctly, was a present. I did used to have the Chinese dragon from Erdl's Thomas and Friends line, but that was a prop in the show, so it doesn't count. And these fire-breathing reptiles were the first proper dragon figures. As you can see, we have 2 green dragons and 1 red dragon. And who are the manufacturers of these models? Well, they'll be revealed for each one. The first dragon is the classic West End dragon, and I remember getting this one from the Early Learning Centre back in mid-2001. I was 9 years old at the time. I was looking for some dinosaur figures that day, and I noticed this guy and thought that he looked pretty cool. As you can see, he is green, which is perfect for a dragon. Well, dragons look good in any colour, depending on the species and theme, but personally I prefer dragons to be either green or red, as those are my favourite colours. He has 3 horns, such as the rhino-like horn on the end of his snout, and his back horns are pointed inwards instead of outwards, like on most other dragons. He doesn't have the aggressive expression in his face, because this is meant to be a kid's toy. Hence why he looks kinda goofy. The wings are thick and grey, and I love the tail, especially the classic point at the end. However, the tail seems to be showing on one side, and when I face him on this side, the tail appears to be absent, and looks as if the manufacturers forgot to sculpt it in. I would have preferred it if the tail was placed at the centre rather than the right side. Also, my other criticism is that this dragon is undersized, as he is dwarfed by other figures such as the Phoenix and Griffin. You'll see what I mean when I do their respected reviews. But aside from those nitpicks, I really do love the AAA/ELC dragon model, and he's an ideal starter for dragon figures. By the way, he also has a miniature counterpart who is red, and I could be wrong, but I believe that the dragon was originally going to be painted red, perhaps as a homage to the Welsh dragon. However, the Phoenix was being planned at the time, and they didn't want to have 2 red mythological creatures sharing the same shelf at the same time, so AAA painted the dragon green instead, and the miniature is red as a reference to the original plan. Either way, whatever the origin/backstory, I do like this dragon in green. However, ELC would eventually do a Welsh dragon figure, but more detail on him later. The next dragon is this one, which was made by Papo. Yes, this is one of Papo's earliest of figures. However, this model was made back in 1999 on the eve of the new millennium, but I didn't buy him until about 2002, which was only a year later after getting the AAA dragon. This one is dark green and has scales that are a lot thicker, unlike his AAA cousin. But what makes this bad boy stand out, and it was the first thing that caught my eye and made me super excited, was the fire breath piece coming from out of his mouth. The fire is part of the sculpt, and it cannot be removed unless you really try to pull it off, to which I wouldn't recommend doing that, otherwise you'll end up spoiling the figure. And the eyes are an orange fiery colour, which only adds to the awesomeness. I really do love the design of this fire-breathing dragon. In fact, when I originally saw him, I thought that he looked just like the dragon who appears at the climax of Disney's Sleeping Beauty. If my memory serves me correctly, I think the character's name was Maleficent. I don't really watch Disney movies these days. Sacrilege, I know. But I do know that the villain wasn't a dragon at the start. She was an evil sorceress who transforms into a dragon, and perhaps it was the design of that dragon which was the inspiration for this guy, even though they're not identical, but they're very similar to each other. This is another great dragon model that I hold dear to my heart, and brings back a lot of nostalgic memories. And finally, we have the Welsh dragon. Now this dragon I actually got out of a medieval fantasy set. I don't really remember what it was called. I think it might have been Tower of Doom, but if any of you can remember the name of the set, then just let me know in the comments. I don't really recall this dragon being labelled as the Welsh dragon, or even Red Dragon, it was just Dragon. But like Mojo's Red Dragon, I like to call him the Welsh dragon, and he does have a Welsh vibe. Believe it or not, but this dragon did actually used to come with a flame effect, which was attached to the mouth, well sculpted to be more accurate. Well, I did used to fiddle around with it a heck of a lot back in the day, and it eventually came off. But I think he looks much better without the fire piece, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. His horns aren't long or sharp, like traditional dragons, because this figure is more of a toy, into why they're not as lethal as other dragons. I kind of like the facial expression. I don't know why, because he kind of looks cute. Another reason why I like to think they used the Welsh dragon would be the pose. Even though it's nothing too spectacular, but it does look dignified. And like his comrades, he too possesses a point at the end of his tail, but here it reminds me of a scorpion's tail, with the sting at the end. So for a size comparison, here's the AAA/ELC Welsh Dragon with the Mojo Welsh Dragon that I reviewed last year. The link to that video is in the description below if you wish to check that out. Not counting the miniature AAA dragon, this guy was the first red dragon to come into the collection, and despite what I said earlier, in my heart, I like to think that this is the Welsh dragon. So overall, these guys have stood the test of time very well. Even though the AAA green dragon may have some scratch marks on him, but those are from years of play, and they're also, for the most part, unnoticeable. Both AAA dragons, green and red, have sadly now been retired, years ago in fact. While technically the Papo dragon is still around, like I said earlier, but he's either been repainted into red or gold, or he's still green, but in a new pose. There's even a miniature version of him, but it's in a set of unicorns and princesses, and I don't want to go for a set that has characters that will be popular with girls, just for one dragon figure, even though it also has Merlin and other male characters in there. So if I was desperate, then I could always just go on eBay to see if there's a loose one. But anyway, what do you think of these dragons? Do you remember owning these models? And do you still have them? Let's have a discussion in the comments. This is Dragonzilla signing out. Take care and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.